The public imagination is held captive by the missile, the launch sequence, the hypersonic arc, the kinetic impact. This is a managed perception. The cost of peer-on-peer kinetic conflict is now a prohibitive factor in strategic planning. The real vector of attack isn't loud, it is systemic silence. CSIS reports identify the true nervous system of the global economy, 1.3 million kilometers of fiber optic cable on the ocean floor. As drones and AI transform modern warfare, the battle space has moved into the abyss. Severing these conduits is the ultimate asymmetric leverage, an act of economic deletion executed by deniable, autonomous platforms. This protocol is designed to create the blind Leviathan. A state stripped of its satellite data and financial telemetry remains a superpower, but one thrashing in the dark. Its legacy warning systems cannot differentiate a liquidity crisis from a decapitation strike. In an information vacuum, its only remaining response is overwhelming, non-specific force. This is the pre-programmed escalatory response to sensory deprivation. States do not go to war out of strength. They initiate conflict from a position of terminal weakness. The primary motive is not ideology, but insolvency. A declining superpower burdened by insurmountable domestic liabilities and a populace unwilling to fund another kinetic campaign faces a mathematical problem. It cannot afford a conventional peer-level war. The cost, in both financial capital and political will, is prohibitive. This isn't a mistake. It's a feature of late-stage empire. RUSI analysis of the Russian playbook confirms this model. When faced with crippling domestic liabilities and the high political cost of an unpopular war, the state pivots. The objective shifts from territorial conquest to a solvency operation. The goal is to seize hard assets, control commodity flows, and export the liability crisis to a designated target. This blueprint is not exclusive. When Fortune reports on a U.S. affordability crisis in the same breath as a strategic interest in reviving Venezuela's economy, it's not a coincidence. It is a signal. The Guardian's analysis of a potential illegal coup and the questionable legal justification for intervention is the operational footprint of this strategy. It's a solvency crisis seeking an external balance sheet. Weakness forces the pivot to asymmetry. The high kinetic cost of traditional invasion is replaced by the low-cost, high-leverage tools of economic warfare. As local media reports, the proliferation of drones and AI transforms modern warfare, reducing the financial and human risk calculus. It allows a state to project power and execute asset liquidation remotely, with plausible deniability. The motive, therefore, is systemic survival. It's a zero-sum calculation to transfer wealth from a target state to service the liabilities of the aggressor state. By normalizing this blueprint, the declining power lowers the global threshold for conflict, creating a launch-on-warning protocol for resource security. This guarantees that a regional asset grab will eventually trigger a cascading, uncontrollable escalation with a peer competitor. The math is irrefutable. The blueprint for intervention is no longer driven by ideology, but by unit economics. The math does not lie. The kinetic cost of projecting power has collapsed. Analysis from the Royal United Services Institute, RUSI, puts the core calculation in stark relief. A $5 million main battle tank can be neutralized by a $500 first-person view drone. This is not an incremental shift. It is a systemic fracture in the architecture of warfare. The 10,000 to 1 cost advantage creates an irresistible economic incentive for asymmetric action. This phenomenon is what strategic planners refer to as the democratization of violence. It means the barrier to entry for inflicting catastrophic damage on state-level infrastructure, oil fields, power grids, logistics hubs, has been effectively erased. An actor facing a domestic solvency crisis no longer requires a peer-level military to execute a high-yield asset seizure. They merely require a shipping container of low-cost, deniable platforms. This economic model transforms foreign policy into a series of high-stakes arbitrage calculations. The low kinetic cost and high potential return make resource-driven interventions a mathematical certainty. The result is a global system reconfigured for constant, low-grade conflict, placing every actor on a hair-trigger, launch-on-warning posture. The operating theater for this new economic warfare is not a recognized battlefield. It is the gray zone, a global archipelago of politically unstable, resource-rich nations designated as proxy laboratories. These are not sovereign states in the traditional sense. They are future assets listed on a balance sheet, selected for systemic liquidation based on their low kinetic cost and high potential yield. The Venezuela intervention serves as the foundational blueprint. Reports from The Guardian label the action an illegal coup with no coherent legal justification. Simultaneously, analysis in Fortune links the operation directly to a domestic affordability crisis within the superpower itself. This is not foreign policy. It is an externalized liability management protocol. The objective is asset seizure to service unpayable internal debts. This model is only viable through asymmetric leverage. As documented by analysts, the proliferation of AI-guided drones and deniable cyber warfare agents transforms the cost-benefit analysis of intervention. It allows for the surgical dismantling of a target state's infrastructure with minimal financial outlay and near-zero physical footprint, bypassing traditional military deployment and its associated political fallout. Therefore, rising instability in regions like Southern Africa, or even warnings concerning G7 partners like Canada, are not the cause of global tension. They are symptoms. Strategic risk advisories from entities like USI and CSES flag these zones based on two criteria: valuable resource deposits and internal political fractures ripe for exploitation. They are being pre-assessed as the next staging grounds for this solvency-driven blueprint. The systemic accelerant is the normalization of this protocol. By repeatedly executing these low-cost resource grabs in the gray zone, the superpower lowers the global threshold for kinetic action. It is a mathematical certainty that this playbook will eventually be used on a territory deemed a non-negotiable interest by a peer competitor, triggering a cascading, uncontrollable escalation from economic warfare to a launch-on-warning state. The terminal systemic risk is not a weapon, it is a protocol. The launch-on-warning doctrine, a legacy framework detailed in CSIS security assessments, mandates a full retaliatory strike the moment incoming missiles are detected, before impact confirmation. This was designed to nullify a decapitation strike by removing human hesitation. Today, this protocol is the primary vector for accidental escalation. Asymmetric warfare is now being transformed by AI and cyber capabilities, vocal media, creating the fog of digital war. A hostile actor does not need to launch a missile. They only need to blind the radar with a cyber attack. For the commander in the bunker, the screen goes black. The protocol's logic is absolute. The absence of data is interpreted as a successful enemy first strike. To hesitate is to risk the total loss of second strike capability. The mathematical certainty of the protocol forces the commander's hand. A low-cost, deniable cyber attack thereby leverages a nation's own defense system into triggering a full-scale, irreversible kinetic exchange. The blueprint established in Venezuela was a proof of concept, linking domestic economic liabilities, the affordability crisis, directly to foreign asset seizure. It was overt, politically costly, and kinetically inefficient. The next iteration must be systemic and non-attributable. The transformation of modern warfare, leveraging AI and autonomous systems, allows for this evolution. According to USI analysts, the new doctrine prioritizes non-kinetic economic warfare with plausible deniability. The objective is no longer occupation, it is forced liquidation. A calibration shot is therefore a mathematical certainty. It must test both the weapon's efficacy and the peer competitor's attribution capability at a low kinetic cost. Within the next 12 months, anticipate a cascading, non-kinetic failure of a Tier 1 financial data hub servicing the Strait of Malacca. The event will manifest as a simultaneous power grid and network outage, localized to the financial district. It will be officially attributed to a submarine cable fault or a cascading software bug.